All right, welcome. Today's webinar will be on really about stop selling in the home and using technology instead, selling remotely. So post-COVID, like lockdowns, that in-home sales was off the table completely. Now, what is actually remote selling? How does it fit into your current sales strategy in today's world? That isn't as that you can't go into people's home, but how can you leverage using remote selling to your sales organization and reap the benefits of it? So my goal of all of these videos is really to help you have one little nugget that you can take to your sales and marketing and help grow your business. So without further ado, I want to just intro here both Guy and Bill from One Click Contractor. If you guys want to just say a little bit of word about yourself and introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Yeah,
all right.
Bill, you want me to jump in? I'll go first.
Sure.
So, name's Guy Kopperud, been in the construction business for a long, long time. Bill and I think we both got our hammer from Noah, if I remember correctly. Been in insurance space, remodeling, restoration, storm chasing, you name it. Pretty much have done most of the different aspects of construction. Been with One Click Contractor for the last 6 months doing marketing, and really excited to share. When I started in construction, a sales enablement tool really didn't exist. I mean, back then you thought about, how do I get paid? How do I invoice and bill and so I can get my money? And boy, has technology changed today to make it more efficient, make it more standardized, make it a better customer experience, grow your business so much quicker than when it was when I started.
That's great. Well, yeah, Bill Phillips here. Been my whole career in home improvement and building materials and construction. Own my own construction companies, worked for manufacturing for 15 years, some of the Black & Decker companies, been in retail, been in technology for 5 years on and off throughout my career. So same as Guy, seen every aspect of it from all different directions, and really love what I do. Been with One Click now for almost 2 years, which is hard to believe because I joined back in January of 2020. Went to the builder show. Quick story. Went to the builder show, came home from the builder show and got sick. And who knows what it could have been back then, a respiratory disease back in February of 2020. So quickly thereafter went into lockdown and then had to figure out, what is this remote situation going to look like? So lots of stuff to share from having pre and post COVID. And I guess we're still COVID, but still a little bit more lesser lockdown than we are today. So.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you guys both for joining me here today. And this is a conversation that really started obviously when COVID was starting to lock down. Bill, you and I had some conversations of like, what are we going to do? And let's back at the beginning of COVID here when it all came down. So, but yeah, let's dive in here. Let's just dive right into really how companies are using One Click specifically to sell remotely. So give us some examples. What are companies using right now?
Well, I think for the most case, One Click, and just a little history lesson here, our founder, Dale Thornberry, is a visionary, I think, in the industry, especially in the home improvement side, because he's been a contractor for a number of years, but has in the last 15 years been involved in technology to enable contractors to be more efficient and effective in the selling and construction process. And so the actual name, the holding company of One Click Contractor is called Remote Salesforce LLC. And Dale, 5-6 years ago, conceptualized One Click Contractor as a remote selling tool, even before COVID, even before people were really thinking about it. And a big reason for that was the changing demographics. So, all of us that are now in the twilight of our career, I guess I would call it, we remember the first Motorola 8080 brick, cell phone and thermal fax machines and the IBM Selectrix typewriters and stuff, and that was big technology back then, and watch it evolve. But there's a lot of our consumers today, be it millennials, be it Zs, be it Xers, whatever, that have grown up with technology in their entire life. And so buying things using technology to enable that purchase is so natural to them. So Dale saw this 5 years ago and said, look, I'm going to figure out how to develop a selling system that would allow me to sell remote. Market wasn't quite ready for that. Everybody slowed down a little bit and says it's really hard sell to get them to think about that because they were still getting into the house every time they wanted to, could sit down at the kitchen table, everything was fine. Well, that's changed. So COVID hit. Obviously, everybody's attention became, how do I get back in the house? You know, how do I get back? I can't get back in the house. What am I going to do? And obviously, One Click took off from there. Couple of features with One Click that are built in. When you look at One Click, we have a two-way video conferencing built into One Click, and we have digital signatures built into One Click. It's not an option. It's not something you have to choose and bolt on. It's built in because that is two components that are very vital to a remote sale. So a lot of our contractors have now started to embrace it. Most of them are looking at this and saying, you know, it's a great way to expand my market area without having to spend a lot of windshield time. Having been a sales rep, having been in the home improvement, windshield time's the death, man. If I got to drive 1.5 hours between appointments, I'm getting 2, maybe 3 in a day when I could get 4 or 5 in if I didn't have to drive as much. Well, we had one contractor in Minneapolis who basically expanded his market area 50 miles in all directions and did everything in those zones remotely. So he would conduct an initial sales call with the customer, go over products, do his presentation, come back with a proposed quote even before they went to the house. So he was able to expand his market area and expand his business and grow his business substantially just by adding a remote feature to his sales process, which is really outstanding. Close rates were the same, everything like that. So that's one area that they can definitely use the remote selling to be successful.
Yeah, I would say, Bill, that it almost is like Dale's vision goes all the way back to remote roof measurements. I mean, that maybe that's where it all kind of started. Not too many people know that he's had played a big role in the ability for these companies today to pull measurements remotely and be able to put together estimates. This is just an extension of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think that, yeah, just to your point, Guy, I think think about remote roof measurement and how people didn't trust that tool, to be able to give the accuracy of measurements and all that kind of stuff. Technology has advanced so greatly, but the in-home sales presentation, the in-home sales portion of it, hasn't, really, it kind of kept pace with, how users are buying and how people are buying other things, other products. Even you can buy a car online today and feel pretty confident about the car you're purchasing. So why do you see, just an extension of this question is like, other companies are, using remote selling. You're saying about increasing geographic footprint, obviously, so your sales reps don't have to drive 200 miles away from your main location, expands your market that you can actually gain customers from, and decrease the amount of sales bandwidth. You probably do twice as many sales presentations in a day remotely, right? Then you're not having to spend the time in the car. So there's all those efficiencies that come with it. But tell us some other examples of what companies are doing, what to overcome, like really closing percentages and all that you normally would get or would feel like you're going to get when you're going to get in home versus virtually here.
Yeah, I'm going to let Bill's he'll answer that. One thing I want to point out, Sean, that's interesting is generally when you look at the insurance space for claims, they're generally not the leaders in a industry for technology. They're oftentimes very slow to adopt technology, and obviously InsurTech has obviously helped increase their adoption rate. But it's interesting that space is going to a more remote minded mindset. They want that easy button. They want the ability to, a lot of them won't admit it, but I think in the industry to try and not have external inspectors go out on roofs that are potentially could fall. They're using third parties to do that or try and do as much as they can remotely. So we're already seeing this shift to use as much remote services, remote third parties, ladder assist companies to get that adjuster out of the field and at the desktop where it's safer, they're more efficient, and the technologies are rapidly becoming available, AI, all of the things. So it's interesting that we're, Bill, and you can comment on this, that we're maybe for the first time we're seeing things in the insurance space where normally it would have led in the remodeling sector first.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of good technology that's enabling that, Guy, as you mentioned. So I think one of the biggest challenges I should say two big challenges that I would note that people or contractors struggle with when they want to go remote is, number one, how do I get a good scope of the job? How do I know, what are the conditions of the job? What exactly is the homeowner? What's the measurements? What's all that stuff? Clearly the roof measurements and now the aerial and ground measurements from companies that allow you to get a good scope of the measurements from that is good, but still being able to go out there and now with digital cameras to have your homeowner take pictures. So we have a functionality right inside One Click where you can send a link to your customer and they can go out and take pictures of the project that they're thinking about and send that back, and it uploads into One Click in a matter of seconds. So just really a little bit of customer participation. You can get a pretty good idea of what the scope of that job is, and with the aerial measurements that you can get, you can decide the measurements. You can honestly go out there and price the job before you even go to the home.
Yeah.
So that's one. Another area that's been very successful for a few of our contractors is they're kind of in the upper end of the market in the sense of the scope of the work. So they're doing complete exterior remodels. They're not taking off the roof and changing the roof line, but they're replacing the roofing. They're doing siding. They're doing significant work, maybe some windows as well. Well, what they do in that regard is they send somebody out, it's called a data collector, go out to the home, do an inspection, talk to the homeowner a little bit, interview them, and then take all the measurements, confirm everything, just make sure it's all right, bring that back. And then they spend an hour or two developing the sales call with all the visualization software that's available today. So they can take pictures, plug them in, and show the homeowner what that's going to look like on their house, what the new materials, what their proposals, all the trims, all the accessories, all the beautiful things, the colors, whatever they want to do. And those sales calls, sometimes what we've shared is anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Now imagine, today's world, can we get into a home and stay there for more than an hour, hour and a half without the homeowner finding a way to get you out? Okay. But when you're not in the home and you're sitting there talking and you've got them engaged and you're going through solutions for their home, and a big buy like that, you're talking 60, 80, $100,000. I wouldn't 5 years ago said, no way would somebody be able to sell that to me over the phone or over a video conference. Happening all day today. We have a customer that's doing $3, $4, $5 million a year on video, on virtual sales calls, in that level of pricing.
Yeah, and it may be that just our society has changed their buying habits. I mean, Amazon maybe played a big part of that. Millennials buying differently. You're right, Bill. It's just a different mindset. I couldn't imagine doing this 10 years ago, but you're absolutely right. It's not a matter of when, it's happening now.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to stress real quick, Sean, is the second point I was going to make is that everybody was concerned about not being at the kitchen table with the customer, being able to read body language, being able to sense what's going on. I think if anything with COVID has taught us, with everybody having to be remote and virtual and all the work going on, I mean, we're still 90% virtual in what we do, and we're still successful, and the economy's continued to grow. So I think we've all figured out you got to change some things. Maybe it's not as easy as it was when you were at the kitchen table and face to face with the customer, walking the property as it normally would be, but you learn how to pick up the visual cues. You learn how to do things a little differently. You have to be more descriptive when you talk rather than being able to show and tell quite as much. So there's some changes just in how you present on the virtual or the remote sale that I think we're all starting to figure out a little bit more and become more comfortable with, because face it, that's what a lot of us do pretty much all day, and having to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, and there's we were talking about it earlier. There's so many new technologies that we were joking that contractors are so quick to adopt technology when it comes to efficiency, when it's in regards to mechanical things like a roof nail gun or a screw gun, but we may be somewhat hesitant when it comes to electronic technology. You've got companies like Hatch out there, Engage. With our platform and the companies that we partnered with through integrations, you really have a turnkey solution that helps you create an amazing presentation that you may not have done in person anyways. So there's so many tools that once you put it together, it becomes very process oriented. Your sales reps are all presenting the same way, the same style. It ends up being a win-win and a better customer experience.
Well, I think the thing to kind of keep in mind, is you look at any other industry, and selling, whether it's selling software or even suppliers, selling to you, whether it's over the phone. Like, we've been buying online big ticket items for a long time, and purchases. I think we all do it on a consistent basis, and it's home improvements is just that hurdle to get over. It's that learning a new system, learning a new process, learning a new way to communicate with customers virtually and to your computer versus across the kitchen table. And there's some specifics to that of setting up a camera and making sure that you figure out the process on that side of things for a sales team to follow. But that's one of the things I love about One Click is you guys have kind of a pre-designed process of, like just like you have an in-home sales process and you're going to do your needs analysis and all that kind of stuff. Those are you still have to do all of the basic sales steps. You just are doing them virtually and adapting them slightly. Because you still need to build value in the product that you sell and the value into your price, and be able to go through that. A lot of our companies on here are replacement contractors. So it's, you're talking about apples to apples comparison against other window replacement contractors or against other roofers in that space, that you can still, your unique identifier could be, we charge less because we do remote here, or we charge more because we adopt technology. And we're going to do, you could go either direction to justify your price in either direction, but virtual is just a way to differentiate yourself, just like handing them over a digital roof report, right? Was the differentiator just a couple of years ago. Now everyone does that.
Right.
So yeah, it is interesting to see how companies can adopt virtual to even use that as a differentiating factor in their sales presentations.
Yeah, and I think a good point there, Sean, is One Click, and Dale, again, talking about our founder, was a contractor and a very successful contractor for 20, 30 years and designed One Click from a selling process. So we map kind of to the major blocks of a selling process. Excuse me. So, the job scope, collecting all the information so that you can quote the job accurately, all the way to the sales presentation and the visualization software. And then once you've sold them on the material, how do you build out the quote so it's accurate? No errors, no omissions and stuff. And then finally into the selling, into the closing process with a proposal and or a contract. So everything we do maps all the way through a standard sales process, and it can even be configured a little bit differently if you go to market a little bit differently. So we've thought about those circumstances and try to go ahead and match it to the contractor and what they want to do. The other real big advantage is you're not having to hunt and peck for anything. So everything you're looking for is just a click away. So the One Click is not just a cool name, it's actually what it is. So if I'm looking for a presentation, it's a click away. If I'm looking for visualization software, it's a click away. I'm not having to go to my desktop, open up this tab, close this tab, go to this tab, hope that's going to work and everything. It's just right there in a very simple menu as you work your way down. So we've streamlined that. And by the way, our customers, the consumers, come back and give that a really high rating for an example of professionalism. So when you do come across organized, you do come across using technology to aid that sales call, everything's pretty, everything's designed to make it easy for the consumer to understand what you're presenting and what you're asking them to do and what you're trying to commit to do. It's just going to make a better professional sales presentation. Our contractors are reporting increased close rates once they get comfortable with the remote sales call.
Let's talk on that for a specific time here. Obviously, replacement contracting is all very much one call close. That's a huge portion of the selling process and selling systems. Is, from your experience in other companies doing one call closing, what are the close rates in comparison to obviously someone sitting in your house? The goal of it is you're not. Although the pushy salesperson isn't going to say, "I'm not going to leave without a contract," you don't get out of your seat, at the same time. So how do you do that remotely successfully when people could easily push you off or say, that like, oh, I've got dinner to make right now,
Right.
and just hang the phone virtual up, versus person in your house.
Yeah, and like I said, we've seen where, besides the capacity increase, if you're doing virtual sales calls versus in person, you can run more sales calls in a day and have more success there, that the close rates are equal to or greater than. And I think a couple of things to think about there is, one, setting the right expectation with the homeowner that, we're still going to come back out. We're going to inspect the product when we're done before we order the materials, just to make sure everything's right. So you're not signing the deal and walking away and ordering materials. You're still going to make that now you're going to make that call to get everything nailed down. You set the expectation. Like if you're a roofer, you always in your contract, you have, if I find rotted plywood or I find rotted fascia that I didn't know was there's going to be this amount of cost to go forward. Well, the expectation that there may be a few more things that I don't know until I get to the home. But if you set that properly, you're selling the job and then you're just confirming the job when you go to the house. Most homeowners see that as, hey, that's a lower risk scenario for me than if I go ahead and don't do it. So that's number one. That's very easy to do. The second thing we've seen is spend a little bit more time and a little bit more formality about selling your company. So when you're really out there trying to build that relationship, you're not one-to-one in person, and depending upon the personality of the salesperson to establish that relationship, you really have to spend some time selling your company. Because really, honestly, anybody can pound nails on a roof, anybody can hang a window in there, but it's going to be the personality, the difference your company brings in both the quality, the care that you're going to give that customer, the warranties that you're going to offer, the past work that you've had, your satisfied customers in behind you. It's all of those things that are going to build that picture of, as I would call it, a risk-free decision for that consumer to make at the time you're doing the presentation. And if you can do those two things, set the right expectations about the second call, and number two, spend more time selling your company, selling your attributes, selling the positives about what you do, then I think you're going to find your close rate's going to be as good or better.
Yeah, I think if I may be mistaken, but I think Engage is just another example. Bill, did they say, is it a 30% increase, something like that? Because you're right. You're actually marketing yourself. You're using testimonials. You're using imagery that shows other projects. And I don't know if anything can get a homeowner more excited just to see what their kitchen could potentially look like, or their bathroom. Yeah. So using those other tools, it works. It integrates right in one click. You can pull up your presentation in person or virtually. You're making it that much easier for homeowners to visualize what their project's going to look like.
Well, and having worked with Salesforces in-home Salesforces for a lot of years, and big ones at that, and some small ones, it's the salesperson always has to gather job scope. The salesperson always has to develop an estimate. The salesperson always has to ask for the order and try to close the job. It's what happens in between those things around the sales aspect of it, which is a lot of times when we find salesmen struggling, is they cut that short. Is they don't take the time to develop that personal connection. Either, again, you still do it, virtually without a problem. You just got to spend some more time. You got to have more, if it's Engage, if it's a PowerPoint, if it's before and after photos, it's whatever it is. Take the time to build that confidence that you are the right choice for that consumer. Price becomes secondary at that point. If I believe as a homeowner, it's going to be a quality product with quality installation, with a great warranty, with great customer service, and you've given me evidence of all of those things, and it may have taken you 30 minutes to do that, by the time you get to price, it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Right.
Yeah, I think the building the value, it doesn't go away. The value of you individually as a person, building rapport, all that kind of stuff is no different virtually than it is in the house. They're either, at the end of the day, to do one call close, or, to sell the job and to close the sale, it still requires an irresistible offer to purchase today. Yep. At the end of the day, that's how we all purchase things. And I think that's the common misconception, is that virtually you're not able to build the amount of value. But at the end of the day, the same sales process, the same system of doing the needs analysis on the front end, so you can build the amount of values necessary to match that homeowner's values, and be able to have a solution that matches what they're actually looking to achieve, is still required. You still need to ask for the sale. Again, it's just different in virtually, in presenting them the contract virtually versus pushing it across the table to them here as well. So you can still go through, but again, you can use virtual as a selling differentiator. Why we do this virtually to make it easier for you, so we're not coming into your house and taking time away from you. So that's all additional things you can do. So one piece we've noticed it from contractors of ours that are selling remotely or doing it over the phone, is that it takes sometimes a slightly different salesperson to sell remotely than it does virtually, in person. Have you guys noticed that? And then I'll kind of follow-up question after that, but that's kind of a question somebody asked you.
Yeah, I think it's a learned behavior to a certain degree. Yes. Is there some people that'll be more natural sitting in front of the screen where they're I don't know, maybe they're a little less comfortable, a little more comfortable being at a screen than they are being in person. That's possible. We've not heard a lot about salespeople not being able to adapt with the amount of coaching and giving them some time and effort behind it. It's again, those guys that sell from personality wise are going to struggle a little bit behind the computer or behind the screen a little more. But I think if they really embrace it and look at it, everybody can learn it. It's really not. It's a little different in certain aspects of it, but it's basically the same process still. You just have to emphasize a few things more and take a little bit more time to do it. Again, think about it this way. If you get the salespeople to slow down, because again, when I've talked about them skipping the sales part of it, really taking time to build value, and they have sometimes they crunch that down because that's not to their mind, that's not something that's tangible that I can create, right? Well, in front of a computer screen, when I don't have a next call to go to for an hour and a half, and I'm going to do it right here at this desk, I can take 30 minutes to do that. So again, if you get them to understand what they're actually trying to accomplish and get them to slow down a little bit, I think anybody can be successful behind the screen.
Yeah, Bill, it's interesting. The flip side to that, whether you have to change your selling personality or not, is homeowners, customers are looking for someone or something to trust, right? So if a contractor is out selling, their business, marketing their business, I don't know how many homeowners I had that once they trusted me as the owner, I'm on site in person, it always would be a problem if they didn't see me there enough. Like, are you going to be here? Well, I have 20 guys on my crew. I'll be in and out. I'll have my project manager. So this is one area where if you can build a marketing representation of your company, they're going to trust your company. Maybe there won't be that issue of whether the owner's on site like I had many times. So that's something we probably overlook, that you really sell your company. I think it's going to help you in the long run.
The other thing I'll point out too is putting somebody in front of a camera. They may be the best in-person salesperson in the whole world, but you put them in front of a camera and all of a sudden you get, "Hi, my name is Bill. I'm here to talk to you today about," and they just get very stoic. They get very deadpan. Their personality changes. And if I think back to when we were doing webinars, back in March of 2000 and April of 2000, they were funny. I mean, everybody was still trying to figure out how to relax and be themselves. And I know myself, I struggled with it at the beginning. So again, my whole point is it's not sometimes natural for some people to do it, but you just have to relax and realize it doesn't matter if I'm in face or if I'm on a camera screen with you guys or whatever. Just relax and have fun and be natural with it, and it'll flow, and they'll feel that through the video as much as they would almost when you're in person.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think that the interesting thing is obviously, certain people are in front of Zoom more often. I'm in Zoom and we're doing webinars, or we're doing this stuff. You see your face on the screen. It does take some of that, like just to your point, to kind of like calm down and figure it out, be more natural. And that's kind of, you just learn that over time, right? But one thing that as far as like key characteristics to salespeople, like hiring someone, is that this is like an industry that doesn't do virtual, but every other industry does. You go find sales reps that are experienced selling remotely over a Zoom call, just about any B2B service out there. So if you're looking for good salespeople that would be good in front of a camera and actually be good virtually selling, go find someone not in the home improvement space, teach them the home improvement selling process. But they probably have a better sales process online and virtually, because they're selling high ticket items right now virtually for 20, 30,000 plus as well. It's very common in every other industry to do virtual sales.
That's great. That's a great point, Sean. And you think about it, I'll toss in my plug for One Click is bringing those people up to speed that haven't grown up in the industry is much easier when you have a structured, simplified, documented sales process that they can learn to. And especially if you're doing 3 or 4 or 5 different products, if all those products sell the same way through the same system, bringing those people up to speed gets a lot easier and a lot faster. So that's a great point, because hiring people outside of the industry that are comfortable with that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and especially with replacement contracting, that is much more straightforward: roofing replacement, window replacement, siding replacement, less design heavy. That definitely, you can teach those, especially with a tool like One Click of here's your roof measurements, here's your company presentation. This is going to be the easiest sale to most people who are selling online, doing multi-step selling, and a lot of large software, purchases, things like that. There are multiple steps in there. And I think you guys alluded to it a little bit before as well, is that virtual selling doesn't have to be an all or nothing. It can be, here, sign the contract. We're going to have somebody out there. Like, first step, as soon as we sign this contract, is we're going to send somebody out to do an on-site measurement. We're going to go out there, meet with you, shake your hand, make you feel, comfortable, as well as this virtual. We're making it easy for you, but also, no, we still want to make sure your home is important to us. So we're not going to miss out on that, feel good factor of, someone came to my house and knows my home individually and not, isn't looking at it from a satellite, or, overcoming some of those feelings where the other guy came out and pointed out 2 rotting spots right away. And how do you know that from, virtual, on a roofing project?
Right.
Something else too, Sean, again, plugging One Click, there's so many other tools available that even if you don't want to do it virtually, whether it's the design tools, you go out, take a picture of the siding, to give different color variations, the roofing. There's also little things like taking pictures. I don't know how many homes I've been in where there might have been something already pre-damaged, that was minor, but you take a picture, it attaches in the job folder to that estimate, so that by chance the homeowner after the fact comes back and said, well, you scratched my baby grand piano or something else. It's all those other assets that you can collect while you're out there at that second meeting that Bill mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, overall, we talked about closing rates, and the other aspect of I think a huge aspect of this from a marketing perspective is that even if you're able to increase your coverage area, of an additional 50-mile radius around your market, often the limitations for companies in growth is their geographic area in which their sales reps are willing to go to and drive to. And because, as we all know, who have, led sales teams, you send a guy an hour and a half in one direction, and it's a no-show for that appointment, or it turns out to be a bad appointment. That's often the limiting factor of companies' geographic footprint in the states and cities that they service. And that's an emotional toll, just on that side of things, and a cost that if you can have an internal, even virtual sales team that is able to cover much larger geographic footprints, it allows you to make sure you're using time more efficiently here too.
Great point.
We have a couple companies trying to sell virtually via video. We have one company that's selling 100% over the phone right now, and it is interesting how they use those value propositions of that we're doing this to save you money, and doing this to create more simplicity as the differentiating factor. And I think virtual is still a huge portion there too. It's just using it as a differentiator in the market.
Yep. And you have consumers out there looking for it.
Yeah.
Especially in the younger set that's now entering the home buying part of their life stage, in a rapid fashion, and they expect it in many cases. They're looking for companies that offer that. So at least having that as an option. You can still do in-home anytime you need to, anytime anybody wants that, but having an option for virtual is a great way to step in and at least start that process and get some experience with it.
Yeah. Sean, I'm sorry, Bill, you made a really good point too, for those contractors who want to start with some things that are items that are less design heavy, windows, siding, roofing. That's a great place to start, because you don't have this unlimited design selections that you might say in the bathroom or kitchen. So start somewhere small and try doing the virtual selling. I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah, there's a lot of along that same lines, Guy. There are companies that do, bath replacement program. So they are replacing. They're not reconfiguring or knocking walls down or anything. They're just taking something out and putting something in. We've got a lot of those companies that are looking for and starting to go through remote processes and selling remotely before they even get to the home, because that's almost more defined and has fewer hidden issues that you may bump into besides possibly piping or something like that would cause you to have to change the price of a contract. And with the emergence of remote interior measurement technology, which is going to be really interesting over the next 12 to 18 months to see how that evolves, you could absolutely do a remote sale for the interior of a home using visualization and remote measurements, and do that and be 98% accurate most of the time. I mean, it's a big category.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and I think, again, using it to your advantage, in every way, that the interior measurement side of things, it's pretty crazy that you literally from your phone can do, you can get all these measurements. And to be able to, quote even a kitchen remodel or a bath remodel, it's pretty incredible to be able to do that more remotely. So when we did a survey this last fall, people want to know the price as soon as possible. That was the number one thing people want in their home improvements, is because there's so much misinformation out there. You even Google how much a roof costs right now, and your range is like $10,000, one direction or another. Plus, you don't know, most people don't know how to measure their roof to begin with. So it's like, great, that doesn't help me at all. So now I still need to go get an estimate on this. So if you're able to say, hey, we can give you this estimate as soon as possible, and sooner than the guy who can't be here for 3 days or 2 days, or it seems like their appointment process is super, cumbersome, like this allows you to see more people, present more often to more leads there too. So,
yeah, I was just going to say, it's kind of funny too. The DIY shows haven't done remodeling contractors any favors, because oftentimes when you see them and they show prices, you don't know how much they're getting comped, and it's done in 2 days. And it's like, come on, this isn't reality. So the other thing I would point out, Sean, is, again, I look at the insurance space, this idea that the homeowner is going to be able to use technology, which they're already doing, using their phones to document water damage or whatever the claim is on the interior, being able to use AI or measurement tools. There's several new companies out there that the phone will identify most items in the room or on the exterior. That industry is leading the charge, and it's just a matter of time before homeowners you're actually going to involve the homeowner in this process. I think you're going to get much better engagement from the homeowner. The sooner that you adopt that AI technology for things on the interior, you're going to see that it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm going to point out too, I think how far virtual is coming. There are companies, one that we're working with, and then a few others that I know about, that are actually working on consumers being able to price their own replacement installation project. So take a drawing, take pictures, get the measurements, do whatever, get the remote roof measurement or whatever, answer these few questions, make these product selections, and boom, you're going to have a price. Again, with exceptions and with conditions. I don't know this, but based on what you've told me, we can install that roof for this. And we know that that's going to be a trend. Some manufacturers are looking at doing that, and then offloading that actual installation to one of their one of their certified contractors. So the fact that virtual is even going back beyond us as an industry to not so much the industry, but to the consumer direct, and letting them specify their job, there's going to be a lot of people that like to do that. And so we don't want to get left behind. So if you're not doing virtual today, you need to get ready for the next step that's already coming to start to show up.
Yeah, and if you're transparent in your extras, roofing, for example, if it's 2 layers, if, like Bill mentioned, if it's rotted substrate, things in bathrooms, like in shower stalls, where you just don't know until you open it up, I think you're less likely to have homeowners really balk at that. They're not going to. That's to be expected, that potentially could be there, because you don't know what you don't know until you open it up.
Well, and you can always show it to them too, right? Yeah. So I told you it was going to be $75 a sheet to replace this or whatever it is, and it's ahead of time, and it's in the contract. And then, hey, look, we got 4 sheets that are damaged. You're going to have to replace them. They kind of go, yep, I understand. And so again, it almost builds your, the professionalism in your group and the trust that you've built, because you told them this could happen. You've told them how much it might cost, and then you've shown them. And so it's like, everything you've said is here. So obviously you are a professional.
Well, I think that the goal, I think where salespeople want to make the sale oversimplified. is making sure, I think where sales is going is much more transparent and is more this, here's all like, no, you are still sharing all the things that could potentially go wrong, like, and other people might not share that with you. You might not share that. It's like, I don't know, about, 50% of the houses we find, that was installed properly, or we got, 2 layers out there, and just want to prep you for that, if that is the case. And then you're, that I think that level of confidence that you can share with the homeowner and just the transparency on that side of things is helpful.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I think, again, virtual doesn't mean sell it, forget it, you're moving on. Is that, there's somebody still going to come out there and take a look at your property and do a final measurement before we install those windows, to order the material. Those are still things that you can make sure that there's confidence in, but at least the initial selling, the building the rapport, building the sales out, you're able to do twice as much with fewer people on your team.
Well, we know it's hard to find salespeople right now, right? It's hard to find anybody right now. And then to take on top of that, find a good, qualified, successful salesperson. Just think about adding 50% of capacity to that one individual. You just expanded your business. You've been able to stretch that high close rate onto more jobs and close more of those jobs because you've added a remote component to what you're doing. So it's a great way to expand.
Yeah, Sean, there's, I won't name the company, but one of the leading companies that sells online, sells virtually. They're spending a large, social spend to get that traffic, but they sell everything virtually. They sell the job. The contractor in that area goes out and measures to make sure that the windows fit properly. They actually are doing so well selling virtually. If there is any water damage or dry rot around the window, they just eat it, because they're selling so many, and that's just a choice that they're going to make. But they figure at the end of the year they've made more than enough money to fix a few windows that may need some tuning before you put that new window in.
Yep, absolutely. Well, they're structuring it in so that it's making it simple for the homeowner. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a roofer who's doing the exact same thing, but yeah, it's just those first few sheets of plywood they're just, let's just not even go there.
It's included.
It's included. Yep. They build it into the price. There's enough margin to be able to do that here as well. So no, this is great. I think I appreciate you guys being able to spend some time with me here and just discuss this. How can if people have questions for you guys and want a demo even of One Click, or just to understand more about what One Click does, how can they reach out to you guys?
Yeah, oneclickcontractor.com. We've got a demo button there. We're happy to walk you through it. Our sales team will get on and answer questions. Bill, any other suggestions?
No, that's it. Just go to the website. We've got some good information on the website itself, but there is a request a demo button all over it. Every place you go, you're going to see it and be able to put your basic information in, and we'll get back in touch and get something scheduled and answer some questions and help you understand how we might be able to solve some of those sales issues that you may be facing every day.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys once again for jumping on here. I know I have a couple more questions here, but we'll answer them via email. Bill and Guy will reach out to you here as well, or have somebody on their team reach out to you and answer some of these questions. But thank you guys for joining us here today, and thank you again, Guy and Bill, for joining.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.